The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
A very good morning to you. With the news at this time, I am Tiana Jordan. The news comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. To begin the news, here's a look at the lead stories. The opposition, a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change, has tabled 2 motions to punish the House Speaker and 21 government parliamentarians. A murder convict who was sentenced to life imprisonment has been recaptured. In regional news, Antigua and Barbuda will no longer require persons to be vaccinated to enter the country. And in Barbados, the leader of the Democratic Labour Party has resigned after her party failed to win a seat in last week's general elections. And internationally, the president of Burkina Faso, Roch Kabore, has reportedly been detained by mutinying soldiers. The details of these and other stories will be coming up right here in just a moment.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return to work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner with results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now the news in detail. The opposition, a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change, APNU plus AFC, has filed a no-confidence motion against the House Speaker, Manzoor Nadir. This move comes amid fears that House Speaker Manzoor Nadir might impose serious sanctions on opposition parliamentarians over the chaos that erupted in the chamber late last month to block debate and passage of wealth fund legislation. In its motion, moved by opposition leader Joseph Harman and seconded by opposition chief whip Christopher Jones, APNU plus AFC states that the Speaker has demonstrated partiality and brought the office of the Speaker into disrepute and public ridicule and the National Assembly into public odium. The opposition says that from the inception of his tenure, the Speaker has routinely shown bias against the opposition and its members by inter alia refusing to allow debates on matters of an urgent, definite, and public nature. After listing several alleged transgressions by the House Speaker, the motion calls on the National Assembly to declare its loss of confidence in him. The governing People's Progressive Party, PPP, has 33 seats, APNU plus AFC 31, and the Liberty and Justice Party, LJP, 1. Motions and bills require a simple majority of the 65 seats. The Speaker of the National Assembly has already denied being biased. The opposition, a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change, APNU plus AFC, also wants 22 government parliamentarians, including Prime Minister Mark Phillips, to be sent to the Privileges Committee for possible disciplinary action. The opposition says that their conduct and behavior were not parliamentary and brought the Parliament and the National Assembly into disrepute and invited public odium into the affairs of the National Assembly. The APNU plus AFC also admitted that during the sitting of the National Assembly, members of the opposition and government ended up in a physical, loud and aggressive face-off in the well of the National Assembly. The opposition maintains that the Natural Resource Fund legislation was not passed because the government MPs had not been seated and that the replica of the mace had been used. Mr. Nadir is on record as warning that the gross disorderly conduct of some of the members during the last sitting of the National Assembly will not be condoned. Guyana's COVID death toll has risen to 1,134 with the passing of 4 more persons. 3 of them are from Region 3, West Demerara Essequibo Islands, and 1 is from Region 10, Upper Demerara, Upper Berbice. 2 of them were fully vaccinated. 1 was unvaccinated, and the vaccination status of the other one was not known. The Health Ministry says it recorded 642 new cases. Of the 175 persons who are hospitalized, 19 are in the intensive care unit. At the moment, the Health Ministry says 13,580 persons have been ordered to isolate themselves at home. A convicted murderer was at the weekend recaptured 7 months after he had escaped from the Lusignan prison, East Coast Demerara. Police say that Shazam Khalil was arrested Saturday night at No. 2 Blairmont Squatting Area, West Coast, Berbice. He had escaped on June 8 last year. Director of Prisons Nicolin Elliott confirmed that police in Blairmont, acting on information, recaptured the escapee at a house in the area. He was immediately taken into custody. According to Elliott, he will be charged with escaping from lawful custody. Khalil, also known as Boy of Lot 53 Shieldstown, West Bank, Berbice, was admitted to prison on August 19, 2016. At the time of his escape, Khalil was serving a life sentence with the possibility of parole only after 24 years. Khalil, who previously worked as a cane harvester, was sentenced to life imprisonment by Justice Joanne Barlow for the murder of Shaniza Muhammad, his teenage ex-girlfriend, at Rossignol, West Coast, Berbice in January 2015. Police say that several stalls in the Starbrook Market area have been searched and 478 grams of marijuana have been recovered. During the search last Friday, police say that a quantity of Ziploc plastic bags containing leaves, seeds, and stems suspected to be cannabis sativa were found abandoned in 2 black plastic bags. Police also say that they stopped and searched a 20-year-old and 23 Ziploc plastic bags containing leaves, seeds, and stems suspected to be cannabis sativa were found in his pocket. He was told of the offense committed, cautioned, arrested, and taken to the Brickdam police station, where the suspected narcotics were weighed and amounted to 31 grams. Police are looking for 4 identifiable females who allegedly threw corrosive liquid on a woman. Injured is 24-year-old Renisha Maxwell of West Rheinveld, Georgetown. Investigators say that she sustained burns to her back and left hand. Her condition is now regarded as stable. The incident occurred Friday night on Norton and John Street, Georgetown. Police say that Miss Maxwell took a taxi from Leopold Street, and as she was traveling, she observed a car following the one she was in. Investigators were informed that she told the driver to stop, and when he did, she alleges that the 4 females exited the trailing car and approached her. One of the females then threw a liquid substance on her, and she immediately felt a burning sensation about her body and began to scream. And now in regional news. There is a strong increase of COVID-19 in Nakiri, where 407 persons have died so far for the year. Coordinator of the COVID-19 team in Western Suriname, Radha Ramjatan, says that among these are medical staff, She says that at the moment, no fewer than 6 doctors in Nakeri are infected. The contamination also seriously jeopardizes services because the medics also have to be in isolation, so they cannot work. In Nakeri, the Regional Health Service is overrun by people who want to be tested. Star News reports that persons are swabbed only if complaints are made. If persons have come into close contact with infected persons, they should be quarantined. This month, 48 people have died nationwide, including 2 from Nakeri. Prime Minister Gaston Brown says the mandatory vaccination requirement to enter Antigua and Barbuda could become a thing of the past. He, however, says that they will have to prove that they do not have the coronavirus, COVID-19.
We could see, for example, a relaxation of the vaccine mandate, which requires mandatory vaccinations in order to enter the country. We could literally eliminate that requirement and to allow for individuals vaccinated or unvaccinated enter the country, provided they test using an approved rapid test or PCR test. So that is one of the restrictions that I could see us lifting. And again, we're moving now towards a policy of personal responsibility.
The Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister says that the government is also exploring ways of reducing the cost of testing. Mr. Brown says that the government will be acquiring user-friendly testing kits to be provided to medical practitioners to drive down the cost. The leader of the Barbados's opposition Democratic Labour Party, DLP, Verla de Pisa, has resigned after her party's crushing defeat at the hands of the Mia Mottley-led Barbados Labour Party, BLP. 2 days after the BLP won all 30 seats at the election held on January 19th, Ms. de Pisa resigned. But the DLP says it will not be electing a new leader until April. That decision to push back the election of a new leader has since been described as madness by Barbadian political strategist Hartley Henry. Mr. Henry says this is the moment that the DLP should seize rather than allow the party to go into paralysis. He says the DLP's current constitution should be amended in order to have a popular mass-based political leader elected. He says if the DLP has a political leader, Barbados's President, Sandra Mason, and Prime Minister Mottley can approach that person for the naming of 2 senators. A Rastafarian leader in the Bahamas says while he has not yet met with any government official regarding cannabis legislation, he is hopeful his community's sacramental rights will be given legal protection. Richmond McKinney, High Priest of the Bahamian Rastafarian Bobo Shantai tribe, spoke with the Tribune on whether the new administration had officially consulted his community while drafting its new marijuana legislation. Mr. McKinney hopes the Davis administration will uphold recommendations made by the previous administration's Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana. He recalls that when the current ruling party was in opposition, it had stated that there was nothing wrong with Rastafarians getting their sacramental rights. He also voiced his support for the current administration by saying that he believes that the Davis administration will be more sympathetic to their sacramental rights and factor in their need to have a stake in the proposed cannabis industry. Mr. McKinney said his community wants a part of all the licenses to cultivate, manufacture, and export marijuana. He also pointed out that it was his community that first saw the potential in the cannabis industry and that they faced years of hardship and discrimination campaigning for its legalization while the country suffered as a result. Last week, the Bahamas government announced that the Davis administration is expected to introduce legislation for a cannabis industry in the first quarter of this year. And now for the international news, here's the latest bulletin from the BBC World Service.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. President Roch Kabore of Burkina Faso has been detained a day after soldiers mutinied at several army bases. The army is expected to issue a statement shortly. Anne Soy has the latest.
Shooting was heard overnight near the presidential palace in the capital, Ouagadougou, and a helicopter was seen cycling overhead. It is understood that the president is being held at a military camp. The presidential fleet of armoured vehicles could be seen riddled with bullets. Gunfire first rang out in several military barracks on Sunday amid reports of a mutiny. The government then denied that a coup was underway and declared a nighttime curfew. The national television station is reportedly surrounded by soldiers, but it remains on air.
NATO has announced it's sending additional ships and fighter jets to member states in Eastern Europe as a response to a continuing build-up of Russian forces near Ukraine. It's also putting forces on standby. After Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, NATO increased its presence in eastern member states. Britain's Foreign Office says it's withdrawing some staff and dependents from its embassy in Ukraine in response to what it said was the growing threat from Russia. It follows a similar decision by the US State Department. Here's James Landale.
Russia denies it plans to invade Ukraine, but it continues to mass forces along the border, and Western powers are beginning to fear the worst. The Foreign Office has decided to start the process of drawing down its staff at the UK Embassy in Kiev. Officials said the decision was not the result of specific intelligence targeting British diplomats. Instead, it was a response to the growing risk of a Russian incursion and the potential risk to diplomats. It's expected that about half the staff working at the embassy will return to the UK with their families. Separately, the State Department ordered the families of all American diplomats to leave Ukraine and authorised the voluntary departure of non-essential staff. It also advised all US citizens to consider leaving the country.
The United Arab Emirates has shot down 2 ballistic missiles over Abu Dhabi that were launched by Houthi rebels in Yemen in their second such attack within a week. This report from Sebastian Asher.
No casualties have been reported in this latest Houthi attack on the UAE. A week ago, 3 people were killed when the industrial zone in Abu Dhabi was hit. The Houthi military spokesman claimed that the interceptor missiles were aimed at an airbase used by the US and that Dubai was also targeted. He threatened that the movement was ready to expand its operations and called on foreign companies in the UAE to leave. The Emirati Defence Ministry has posted a video showing what it says is a fighter jet destroying a ballistic missile launcher in Yemen moments after the missiles were fired at Abu Dhabi.
World News from the BBC. The embattled British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has asked his government's Cabinet Office to carry out an investigation into claims by a Muslim member of Parliament that her faith had been an issue in her sacking as a transport minister. Nusrat Ghani said she was told her status as a Muslim woman had made colleagues feel uncomfortable. The Education Secretary, Nadim Zahawi, said there was no place for Islamophobia in the Conservative Party. More than 1,000 Italian members of parliament and regional representatives begin voting for the country's new president today to replace Sergio Mattarella. They'll cast a secret ballot every day until there's one consensual candidate. Mark Lowen reports.
The current Prime Minister Mario Draghi is a front-runner, but that could lead the government to collapse just as it's navigating the spending of EU COVID recovery funds. In a process akin to the secretive papal conclave, the names selected will be read out at the end of each day. If after the third round no candidate has 2/3 of the votes, a simple majority will suffice. But in this, there's no white smoke once the job is done.
A Pakistani female judge, Aisha Malik, has been sworn in as a Supreme Court justice, the first woman in the country's history to reach the top court. A large number of judicial officials and lawyers attended the ceremony in Islamabad. A Pakistani minister described Ms. Malik's appointment as a landmark elevation. Lawyers and activists say it's a rare victory after decades of struggle to get representation for women in Pakistan's male-dominated society. The former captain of the Zimbabwe cricket team, Brendan Taylor, has admitted being approached by Indian businessmen to fix matches for money. He says he faces a multi-year ban after delaying for 4 months before reporting this to the ICC, the governing body of world cricket. BBC News.
The news came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now to end the news, here is a recap of the leads. The opposition, a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change, has tabled 2 motions to punish the House Speaker and 21 government parliamentarians. A murder convict who was sentenced to life imprisonment has been recaptured. In regional news, Antigua and Barbuda will soon no longer require persons to be vaccinated to enter the country. And in Barbados, the leader of the Democratic Labour Party has resigned after her party failed to win a seat in last week's general elections. And internationally, the president of Burkina Faso, Roch Kabore, has reportedly been detained by mutinying soldiers. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com.